Today's Friday, February 28th, and you are listening to episode number 18 of the DogHouse podcast.
From DogHouseSystems.com, this is the DogHouse podcast.
All right, we'd like to welcome everybody back. Again, this is episode number 18 of the DogHouse podcast, and we are on schedule 2 weeks out from the last one, so that we have started off a wonderful good streak.
Woohoo!
And that was Abby. How are you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Actually, I should have said, no, that was Lorenzo. How are you doing, Lorenzo?
Great.
Awesome.
Would have been like, Lorenzo sounds a little different.
He got real excited. We have some good stuff to go over today, and we're excited to do that. So why don't we just go ahead and jump right in?
Tech and gadget news.
All right. So starting off the news for today, it kind of comes close to home. So I thought we'd talk about Lyft, the competitor to Uber, is bringing Robotaxis to Dallas. So they'll be right down the street from us pretty soon. Actually, I say pretty soon as 2026. So we're still going to be a little ways away, but they're obviously trying to keep pace with Uber and I guess at some point maybe even Tesla on the taxi side of things. And they are looking to launch a fleet of robotaxis here in Dallas. That is going to be kind of cool. Are either of you guys interested in possibly going for a ride?
Not really, no.
It'll be interesting to see how many people do that over the regular rideshares.
And they, in talking about it, they if you look at the statistics, if you're strictly looking at statistics, they're safe.
Yeah.
And I'd say that it's a younger generation of people that are getting into these. And so they're pretty open-minded about hopping in, giving it a shot. And when those folks were polled, they really had no hesitation of getting into it. So you're showing your age, Lorenzo.
Well, I'm coming at it from a little bit of a different angle than I don't trust it. Technology is great and can be improved. The thing I worry about is other drivers. I mean, having driven through Dallas very often.
One of the safest places to drive.
Sure, yeah, especially going, cutting through downtown, or people are unpredictable.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see how it fares with Dallas traffic, especially like midtown traffic, and then see how much better it gets based on having to account for the unpredictability of drivers cutting across every lane to get to their turn instead of going up one block and making a turn.
Like they should.
Yeah, exactly.
No doubt. I think we should do an experiment. I think we should record a podcast in a Lyft. Rideshare. That would be interesting. You could hear the nervousness in Lorenzo's voice as cars are zipping past us.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, as a woman, more of like the safety standpoint, I think it'd be a lot safer if you're going individual in a rideshare.
Yeah. I think it, I love driving, but then part of me from the safety standpoint, I at times think, would I be willing to give it up if everybody had to give it up? I would, I think, just from the safety aspect of it. You think about all, these life-ending accidents that take place, and lots of times, you think about drunk driving, somebody that just gets in too much of a hurry and does something idiotic on the roads.
Someone who's too impatient.
Impatience. And the impatience, everybody else pays for it because you have this chain effect that happens on these freeways that ends up everybody's having to slow down to a stop. Whereas if it was autonomous driving, I would, and I'm speculating, but you would think that it would work smoother from, potential traffic jams.
Yeah, you would think that in a very ideal world, all of the autonomous driving vehicles would communicate with each other to signal, hey, I am going to change lanes and that is the exit I need.
Yeah.
And then they would clear a path and it would go just fine. Getting all of these companies to work together on that may be a whole different story. But yeah, I agree. If all of the cars were self-driving or even aware of the intentions of each other, not that, they're sentient, but at least having a series of actions that need to be taken for one to change lanes or whatever it might be would be great. Yeah, if I could get into the vehicle and know that by the end of the day I will be where I want to be, if I'm going on a cross-country trip by car, to know, I just need to get in and then, read a book or watch a show or something, and then it'll drop me off there like flying or, taking a bus or something like that. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. For our listeners, we'd be interested in kind of getting your thoughts. So feel free to shoot us an email or leave us a voicemail. The other thought too is kind of going back to some of the previous gen podcasts. We'd have people sometimes, and it's kind of wild because it was many years ago, but just using voice recorder on your phone, you could record a message and email it to the podcast. Sound quality would be really good. Love to hear your thoughts.
In other news, Intel has released sort of a white paper or a suggestion for platforms to create modular PCs. So they sort of give guidelines for how something like this would be tackled in a real world application. It'd be interesting for viewers to go and take a look at Framework, who's sort of doing the same thing, but independent of Intel's white paper and efforts. But Intel lists their goals with this as being a sustainable approach for enhanced repairability and reduced e-waste. So easily repairable laptops with modular components, laptops and desktops that can be scaled up or down, like battery capacity, cooling, and also, performance as well. So it's pretty interesting. We'll leave a link in the show notes if anyone's interested in taking a look at that. As of right now, no specific products being listed by Intel.
Right. And we were talking about it before the show, but at one of the Intel Solution Summits that we went to, I'd say it was probably close to 10, 12 years ago, Intel was kind of pushing this whole concept, and they just, with us having the standard building blocks when it comes to desktop PCs, they presented it and said, wouldn't it be cool if we had that same type of construct with laptops? And everybody's like, absolutely. And in one of the breakout sessions, they said, go take a look at it because you can. And with that proof of concept, we were able to plug, let's say a motherboard. You could take it in, pop another one in, and the concept is awesome. Imagine if you could, with a laptop, 4 or 5 years later, take that motherboard module, pop it in. Users would love it.
Yeah, we had something close. I say a few years ago, more than a few years ago, with desktop sockets on laptops and removable GPUs with the MXM modules.
Yeah.
So you could, and the memory and storage as well could be removed. So you could upgrade your CPU, your memory, your storage, and your graphics card if the companies are willing to play nice and keep the same socket and keep the same power envelope for that MXM module. So that fell by the wayside.
Unfortunately.
I'm not going to drop the mic, but YouTube is. YouTube is celebrating 1 billion monthly podcasts on their platform. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That is so much. In a blog post written by one of their VPs, they're celebrating 1 billion monthly active viewers of podcast content on YouTube. They have listed that last year viewers watched over 400 million hours of podcasts on living room devices monthly. And YouTube is now one of the more frequently used services for podcasts because a lot of podcasts now have video to them. So they post on podcast platforms, but they also add the video aspect for YouTube. So they list some podcasts, talk shows like Club Shay Shay and The New Heights podcast by the Kelsey brothers, to Rotten Mango and Murder, Mystery, and Makeup. You can find us on YouTube as well. Our little podcast on YouTube.
Yep. See the same logo for the whole 30, 40 minutes, but
That's okay.
we're on there.
We're more
Audio.
an audio podcast.
Exactly. Yeah.
More of a plug-in and walk type of podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
But
There you go.
yeah.
Have either of you heard of Aspect AI? It's a social media platform where their whole, I guess, approach is you are the only human on that social media platform.
I had not.
I hadn't either until I saw it today, but it's intriguing. So you, unlike not real life, but unlike popular social media, where you could be interacting with bots or seeing content generated by AI, the premise here is from the get-go, everything you see, every interaction you have, every friend you make, every person you message and receive messages from is AI. You're the only human on this. So it's a little bit concerning.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it's a little concerning to think that you're selecting to cut yourself off from human interaction. On the other hand, if you've had enough of interaction with people, can you still receive the same, not to get, psychological, but the same like dopamine hit
Right.
of positive interaction with people that you've curated, even if those people from the get-go don't actually exist? It's weird. I don't know if I'm in support of this or if I don't. I'm not a big social media user in general, but is this a healthier alternative to doom scrolling on human social media?
I don't know. You would have to probably test that out.
Yeah.
But I think, and I'm reading a couple of the reviews, and one of them brought up a really good point that it's a solid app for teenagers, for kids starting to get into social media, because you're not dealing with the everyday, not to be mean, but to be mean, creepy people who, sometimes can slip through the cracks of the Instagram teen.
Yeah. And the garbage that's on there and the potential bullying. I mean,
Yeah.
at first my jaw dropped when you started talking about it. I was like,
We saw it.
yeah, I was like, this is crazy. But, like you said, if somebody might have been the victim of bullying, but they love the idea, I mean, this, like anything in moderation, this might have a positive type aspect.
It might deter doom scrolling because you're not really falling into the pit of seeing a bunch of different, you're talking to AIs, but at some point I think you kind of know that this is all not real. Maybe. Yeah. I'm not sure. I, again, think maybe test it out to see if doom scrolling is actually.
So where would we draw the line between this and role playing getting really into a video game series or a show or a movie series or a book? That sense of escapism. Is this another, and this a little more meta, is this another form of escapism? Like people will get on social media just because they need that social media interaction.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm back to that, like with everything with moderation, also realizing this is not, this is not real. It's it's just not real.
Yeah.
I think this is good topic of conversation. So give us a call and leave us a voicemail at 214-810-4347. We'd love to hear what you guys think about this as well.
Yeah, definitely. EA just released the source code for a bunch of old Command & Conquer games, which is fantastic. I don't know if anyone I don't know if either of you've played any of the Command and Conquer series.
Not in about 20 years.
Okay. Yes.
First time I'm
Same,
hearing of
yeah.
it.
So my only real interaction, I played tons of this game, is Command and Conquer Red Alert 2
Yeah.
and the Yuri's Revenge expansion. I have gone so far as to pick up an old PC to run Windows XP on to play that game because the modern, up until very recently, the modern release on Origin, now it's available on Steam, was just broken. It would not run. And there were lots of forum posts about, oh, you have to do this and this to fix it. But if you actually ran on XP with hardware that supported XP, works just fine. There's a project called OpenRA, which is people recreating the game, and they'll give it to you for free, but you have to take the pledge that, oh, I do have the game. I haven't worked with this because, like I said, I actually went for the hardware. But now, since EA is releasing the source code, unfortunately not for those two games that I really enjoy, but a bunch of other games, people can openly mod, recreate, rewrite, integrate new. I don't know, the sky's the limit. They've also enabled Steam Workshop for these titles, so people can create and distribute mods for the game and additions through Steam. So you don't have to download something from maybe a sketchy website, maybe a legitimate website. You can just do it all through the Steam interface, which is pretty cool. I think, especially as a way to keep these games that have pretty big player bases still going, you know, and they don't have to worry about upkeeping it. They just hand it over to the community, say, here you go, do what you want with it.
That's
pretty cool. Yeah.
Also got me to thinking maybe we ought to have a retro offering.
Yeah.
we could have Armor.
Do you
XP.
want to run games that don't run on modern hardware? We'll find you some hardware. Yeah. No, it's cool. It's a nice gesture from EA, who hasn't always been on the side of keeping their games running.
Yeah.
To just hand this over to the community, which is great.
That'd be cool, though, the Armor XP.
Yeah, there you go. The
Yeah.
Armor XP. Yeah.
You can thank John for that one.
It's all good. All right. So Windows 11, 24H2 upgrades, that's been an interesting little ride for us. And we've got a little article that we're going to cover, and it got me thinking about some other things. Folks, if you have recently upgraded to Windows 11 24H2, and your computer is now squawking at you to reactivate Windows, take a look at your product key. If it's a DogHouse system, it's on the back, and type in that key at the link that they will provide for you. When you click on it, that will get you reactivated, and that nagging message at the bottom right-hand corner will go away. For folks that are in the architect industry, or just pretty much in that general vertical, that use an application called AutoCAD 2022, some of those folks were in for a rude awakening with one of the latest upgrades or updates, and that would have been the 24H2 update. Apparently, it did not play nice with AutoCAD. And Microsoft did something that they normally don't do. They have, I guess, a kill switch so that you can bypass that update. And obviously, because there's not a fix or a workaround for it yet, they kind of made their version of Windows like IoT, where it won't necessarily update. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not something we generally see Microsoft do. Is one, admit there's an issue that a piece of software is broken by an OS upgrade, and two, issue a fix, not in the form of an additional upgrade, but the ability to block systems from upgrading if they're running that specific hardware. Details are pretty light. We haven't played around this yet. We don't use AutoCAD here.
Right.
So we wouldn't be able to use this fix, but apparently IT managers will be able to find this issue under Safeguard ID 5621113 if they're interested in Windows Update for Business reports to see if their organization's endpoints are affected. So, yeah, another example this week of something good being being done. Yeah, that's great.
And I'm trying to think back of any other time that I could ever recall this happening. I can't.
I'm sure write in if you know of one.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know if we're missing anything, but I have not seen anything like this. Usually the recommendation is if you really need your software to work and have very minimal risk of an update breaking it, the recommendation would be go to IoT, which would lock you into a feature version. So
Right.
22H2, 24H2, 23H2 would lock you into that version. You need to continue to receive security updates, but no major feature changes.
I'm having so much fun with this.
What are you having fun with?
So PictoChat on the Nintendo DS is now an app for iMessage.
That's what you've been doing.
That's what I've been doing. It's called PicoChat.
I thought you were doing some kind of scratch and sniff type of thing.
No, it's got the stylus. So you like
That's
draw
what
with
you're-
your finger.
you're drawing
Yeah,
like mad.
I was trying to figure out all of the fun stuff because I remember PictoChat on the Nintendo DS, and I would just color in the entire screen.
Matthew would send me pictures. He'd send them because we both had the Game Boys was it
DS.
DS? That's
DS.
it. The DSs. Yep. Very cool.
So hope they expand to other phones because it's a really fun app.
Yeah, it'd be great if it came to Android. I guess at that point I'd just be sending pictures, right? If you're going iMessage to Android messages or Google messages. But on your phone, on your iPhone, you actually have the entire, looks very much like PictoChat interface, even with the little,
The little
what do you call it? Not the
keyboard.
bubble, but the little like name at the top left right now, which says PicoChat.
Yeah, you can change it, and you can change the color. You can change like how the stylus is set based on if you're right or left-handed, or if you're both. You can pick none. I don't know how that would work, but it's got all of the keyboards on it, the emojis, all of that stuff. So very fun.
That's pretty cool. And it integrates right into your
Yeah.
messaging app, right?
Yeah, it's like if you get stickers, it's like an app like that. So it's not an actual app that will go on your home screen. It'll download and integrate immediately into your iMessages.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, very fun. What's also fun is the burglars coming back to Sims 4.
Really?
You can get your house burgled. So a decade ago, I guess, Sims had Robin Banks, actually her name, who would sneak into your Sims's house at night, no matter if you were awake or asleep, and would burgle you. So they're bringing her back to the game, to Sims 4, as well as the police will be coming back so you can report the burglaries, and they're bringing back burgle alarms so that way you can set it up and the police will respond. I'm very excited. I have played Sims 4 a bunch of times. I don't actually play it. I just design houses. It's very fun.
That's
But-
same. Going back to Sims 3 and then Sims 4. I thought it was interesting, because it's like I'd get these emails from EA, new expansion or DLC. I'm like, how many DLCs have there been for this? I actually looked it up. 71. That's crazy. And then later on, Abby will talk about the fact that you can actually get the base game for free now. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, there's a lot of interaction between DLCs. So if you have the pets, dogs will chase them off. Werewolves will scare them off, or spellcasters will enchant them into leaving. So
Can you befriend Robin Banks?
I don't know.
Yes, you can.
Can you?
Yes. Can she die? Yes.
Oh,
But a
interesting.
new burglar will fill her shoes.
Oh, I did not know that.
I just was looking at the FAQ.
I thought you had already spent some time
I
playing.
thought you already knew this.
No.
In other gaming news, NVIDIA is offering you the exciting opportunity to enter a drawing, and if you win, you will get the prestigious ability to pay full price for a graphics card.
Oh, I thought you were going to say be one of the first 15 people to actually own one.
That would be cool. No, to combat scalping and bots buying up all of the available cards, essentially, NVIDIA is offering individuals who have signed up for an NVIDIA GeForce Experience account before January 30th, 2025. So you have to have already had an account before that date and fill out a form.
6 a.m. Pacific time.
6 a.m. Pacific time on that date. Yeah,
yes.
There you go. Fill out a form and there'll be a drawing to essentially be able to buy the card direct from NVIDIA.
How incredibly kind of NVIDIA. You know, I'll tell you what, our revenues have gone through the roof ever since we started putting 5090s on eBay and just selling the box only.
Yeah, pallets of them, right?
Or, no, pictures. We're selling pictures of 5090s.
Just a sheet of paper.
Yeah, a sheet of paper.
You will receive an envelope with a printed picture of a 5090.
Please read description.
To clarify, we're not doing that.
For an incredible price of $25.99.
It is very funny to see that people will buy a picture online because they don't read the description.
Yeah, that's
it clearly says,
Going to stop the bots, though, I thought that was pretty ingenious.
Yeah, that's great.
I think once I was looking on eBay just to see, and it was all 5090s, please read description. Yeah. It's like, this is a sheet of paper.
Yep.
Do not buy if you are human.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or bots welcome, bots only.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get into PC gaming.
PC gaming.
I have 3 games this week.
Wow.
I did. Yeah. Wow. Wow. The first one is a fantasy game called Monster Hunter Wilds. The unbridled force of nature runs wild and relentless, with environments transforming drastically from one moment to the next. This is a story of monsters and humans and their struggle to live in harmony in a world of duality. It was released yesterday, and it is $69.99 on Steam.
We actually booted up. They have a really good benchmarking utility.
They do,
and we've been messing with it here. Actually, we used it as a part of troubleshooting for one of our customers, and the graphics on it look pretty awesome.
Yeah. The other one is Marvel Rivals, a superhero team-based PvP shooter. Assemble an all-star Marvel squad, devise countless strategies by combining powers to form unique team-up skills, and fight the destructible, ever-changing battlefield across the continually evolving Marvel universe. It is free to play on Steam. And I believe every month, I could be so wrong, they're adding Marvel characters. I believe that there is a website, I think Screen Rant recently released a list of potential characters coming out as the game develops. So,
and it looks like they've got new season content that started back in January 10th. That'll end in April.
yes.
Eternal Night Falls.
And then the casual game of the week is Sims 4. Play with life and discover the possibilities. Unleash your imagination and create a world of Sims that's wholly unique. Explore and customize every detail from Sims to homes and much more. It is free to play on Steam.
And good luck finding the burglar.
Good luck finding the burglar. That one will be fun.
We have, once again, a free Epic Game of the Week.
We do. Please forgive me if I pronounce this wrong. I think Mages of Mystralia.
Works for me.
In a world of magic, your mind is your greatest weapon. Learn the ways of magic and design your own spells to fight enemies, navigate treacherous terrain, and right past wrongs in the kingdom of Mystralia. And that is on Epic Games. It was their free game of the week in their store. And Steam's Next Fest is live through March 3rd.
What's Next Fest?
Next Fest is a preview of upcoming games. So lots of, I think, to be in Next Fest, you have to have a downloadable playable demo, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm just scrolling through there now. Game of Thrones King's Road looks pretty cool if you're into Game of Thrones or medieval hand-to-hand and weapon combat. Yeah, it looks very interesting. And like I said, all of these games on NextFest have a downloadable demo, so worth to check out.
Yeah, definitely ought to check that out.
You can also check out Among Us 3D.
Oh,
if you liked Among Us.
Yeah.
Oh,
That would be cool.
that's interesting.
We should play that.
Next episode, Among Us 3.
Next episode is just us playing Among Us.
But no video, just the audio.
Just
Screaming.
We're an audio-only podcast.
yelling.
Well, let's go ahead and get into the technical corner.
Welcome to the Technical Corner.
All right. Well, this one is it's going to take a little bit of time to unpack, but we have. I think this is going to be good though. So last week we didn't have time to, or last episodes I should say, we didn't have time to go through our customer's question, but we're going to go ahead and attempt to at this point. So the question that was asked to us is, I'll just read it. Hello again. As for the external SSD, Steam Deck, gaming, etc., and if you go back a couple episodes, we did talk about the Steam Deck with removable storage, if I am remembering correctly. So the email goes on, says, yes, I intended to have one external drive to be able to use on my devices and not all my games, but that would have been nice. I only have 230 games, which is a lot. Yeah, that's respectable for Steam library. Yeah. But I have discovered that some people have over 500 games. Yeah, quite easily. So when I get a Steam Deck around Christmas, or when I got a Steam Deck around Christmas, I also got a SanDisk Extreme, an A2 1 terabyte SSD card, and a SanDisk 4 terabyte SSD. I watched many YouTube videos, and I went with one of those 2-peep instructions using NTFS over the other formats as it plays better with Linux and Windows. And then he went on to say, if that's wrong, please let me know how, as I could not get EX4 to work the way NTFS formatting has across my 3 devices. And then he included some of these YouTube links, which in turn, we'll go ahead and put those in our show notes as well. So you guys could take a look at that. He goes on to say, I think it was one of those two. Once I formatted the external and the SD cards, I had issues with them not mounting or being detectable on my Steam Deck, but it was fine on my laptop. And he put a couple more video links. And he said, after following this video and what this person did, I had fewer issues, but I would have to repeat this a few times. And then the following would happen. And he gave us some pictures that we'll add some of these. I think we can add some of these photos to our show notes. Is that right, Abby? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and do that. Every time I disconnect and reconnect the external SSDs to the Steam Deck, it recreates a file, as you can see. So per that temporary fix on the guy's video setting to run Steam Deck or whatever it says, he has worked for the most part. However, I do not have a picture of what I have had to revert to when I got my Steam Deck for some reason. You can see in one of the pictures, the internal drive in the Steam Deck, the partition is jacked up, corrupted, or something. He wasn't sure. So for now, the last few weeks, the Steam Deck's been fine. And for the most part, I've just left the SSD attached to it, which he said it's not ideal. I also got an SD card full of emulators, all set up with games.
Maybe he bought an SD card. There are some projects or sellers that'll let you buy pre-configured SD cards or hard drives with games.
Yeah, it could be.
To each their own, yeah.
Sure. Okay, so and then he said he put that in the Steam Deck and booted that from the SD card, then attached his SSD, entered the SD card, and that's when I got the screen that I had to revert to booting from when I got the Steam Deck. So he said on one of those times, I also downloaded Decky Loader and other stuff. No idea if that might have caused the issue or what. So he concludes here saying, for now, the Steam Deck has been fine. It just bugs me that the internal drive has so many messed up partitions. Fortunately, they're not that large, but he goes on to say it certainly adds up. So he said, I have no idea how to fix that, but I know that I need to clean up that at some point. It was a lot to type, so I hope I captured it all and it makes sense. And yes, it does. And with the pictures and the videos, we appreciate that. It certainly helps. Reading this back as audio, this may be a little tougher for our listeners to totally keep up, but I think with our show notes, if you go to the site, look at the show notes, maybe the videos and the pictures, that'll help. And Lorenzo, what are your thoughts?
Where to start? Let's see. This customer reminds me of stuff that I would do like on the weekend for fun.
Yeah. Yes.
It seems like, and viewer write in and correct me if wrong, tinkering with the Steam Deck is the pastime on this one, which is, what I did with my loaded Windows onto mine. I tried to dual boot. I tried to run games off an external SSD. I tried to run Windows off an SD card, which didn't work too well.
Yeah.
For external storage, I'd recommend not using ext4 or NTFS, but rather using exFAT or exFAT. You get a little bit better space utilization and a little bit better performance, I think. NTFS is a little bit of a heavier file system. Shouldn't matter that much, but that would be compatible across Windows and SteamOS or Linux.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have issues with hot plug on that either, or issues with it appearing and then disappearing if you've reconnected it immediately after disconnecting it.
I appreciate you mentioning that because there was another email that followed, and he actually said what would be our opinion of the best format for SD and the SSD drives.
For both, I would use exFAT. If you don't have the option to format it as that on the Steam Deck, I believe the interface on the Steam Deck will just do ext4. At least it did when I used my Steam Deck heavily. Formatted on Windows, make sure it's empty, formatted on Windows, then pop it into the Steam Deck and add the library location. So in your Steam library, add a library, choose that disk, and then Steam will create a Steam library folder there, and it'll start to index that and search for games there.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but he asked one more question, and I'm not sure if, he said, what speed should these drives be, 1K or 2K?
So if you're talking about the internal SSDs, Valve has said, and they made a change early on the Steam Deck life cycle. So originally they had PCI Express 3.0 SSDs that could do, I think, 2 or 3 gigabytes a second or 2 or 3,000 megabytes a second. They then moved to drives that would do 1,000 megabytes per second, and they publicly stated that they didn't notice any difference in game load times on SteamOS at least.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Whatever drive fits physically, it's a smaller 2230 size NVMe, at least if it's not the OLED version, which it doesn't look like it is. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so any of the 2230 sized drives should be fine.
Awesome.
Yeah. Especially if you're comparing that to loading from an SD card.
Okay.
A lot of this may go back to the creating of those files every time this viewer connects and disconnects that external SSD is a little funky. I didn't see that behavior on my Steam Deck, but I didn't use an external SSD to load games onto. I use it to boot Windows, so that may be a little bit different.
Sure.
Another thing to consider is SteamOS is fantastic, but it is an immutable file system, meaning the only partitions that the user has direct access to change however they like are their home folder, or I guess the only location on the disk that they have the ability to change is the home folder. All of your games, the OS itself, are sort of, from my understanding, virtually mounted. So you don't have direct access to edit any of the file system, which maybe something is corrupt there.
Yeah.
You can reset your Steam Deck, and that we'll link this and also email this back to the customer. Steam does have Steam Deck recovery instructions where they walk you through recovering and re-imaging your Steam Deck from the device itself. So you boot into recovery mode and tell it to reinstall your OS. It will wipe all of the data on that drive, but it will make sure that you have a clean install of Steam.
Okay.
Or Steam OS, the whole thing. A lot of funkiness with this one, and I don't know how much of that is just by design and how much of it is trying to take advantage of features that maybe aren't prioritized. Like external storage may not be as much of a priority for the development team and may not be as well fleshed out as having a second drive on, Windows, or if it's a power delivery issue, if that drive is disconnecting and reconnecting because it's drawing too much power, that could also lead to data corruption or it being remounted as a different drive or have a different ID, which it looks like that's what it is from the files that it's creating. It's one of those cases where write in with more details if you have them, but I would suggest, thankfully, your games can be re-downloaded. Steam Cloud should take care of your cloud saves. I would start with a fresh OS install, especially because Steam is constantly releasing updates.
Yeah.
I don't know what version of Steam OS 3 this user has. So
that was kind of along the same thoughts I had. Just let's maybe give it a fresh start. Put that back on. If we're missing some details, and you're listening, go ahead and feel free to write back. We can take that information on the next episode and discuss it further. But good luck to you. That is kind of funky with what it seems to be doing.
Yeah, it seems to be indexing the drive as a new independent drive every time it connects, but still keeping the index of the old drive. So those files it creates are each a pointer to a different. On Windows, you'd have, drive D, E, F, G, whatever you have. On these, it's, SDA, SDB, SDC, and similar mechanism to what you see on Windows. It would be as if you had a bunch of drives plugged in. When you clicked on them, they weren't actually plugged in.
Yeah.
So it's not removing the index.
Yeah,
of that
it's
drive
keeping
being
it
connected.
there. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Well, thank you. And again, for folks that are listening, if you've got any technical questions that you'd like to address in a future episode, feel free to reach out to us. And speaking of which, Abby, we go through all the many ways that folks can do that.
Of course. You can email us at podcast@doghousesystems.com. You can leave us a voicemail at 214-810-4347, or you can DM us on social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and X at Doghouse Systems.
It's almost weekend time.
It is almost weekend time.
Y'all have any big plans this weekend?
Going to a workout class.
That's fun. Hopefully, you guys can get outside this weekend. Hopefully, take the dog for a nice walk. That's what I'll be doing Saturday and Sunday. So, low 70s, mid 70s.
Ooh, that'll be so nice.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, last Sunday was so nice. I was making my mom some chicken, and it was really nice outside as I was doing it.
Compared to the Sunday right after we recorded the last podcast,
Compared to that week.
I took our dogs for a walk. There's this trail that we were able to go through, and I was wearing a sweat or a hoodie. And I was thinking, man, I messed up because it was getting hot. We took the turnaround and started to come back on Main Road to head back to the house, and we saw this big cloud. And I was like, what in the world? And it pushed through, and all these leaves started coming across the street. Birdie's like, what the heck? And by the time we got home, I was freezing. I was like, that was the weirdest quick shift in temperatures I'd seen in a long time.
My dad said he could see the cold front coming in.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get rained on. It was just one huge long cloud, but thankfully we didn't. Made it back to the house. All was good. But don't have to deal with that this weekend. Hopefully no more freezes this winter. I can't believe it. Now I'm saying I can't wait for warmer weather until I'll start complaining about the summer again.
Yeah, give it a few months.
Yep. Then we'll be sick and tired.
Just wait. Then all you hear from us is, we wish it was cooler.
For right now, we're not wishing anything. We're just enjoying.
Really love just how nice it is.
Yep. And I hope for everybody else listening all over the place, that you guys are as lucky as us this weekend. Have a wonderful weekend. Get out, enjoy the weather. And we'll be back in a couple weeks with episode 19. And until then, you guys take care.
Toodaloo.